Senator J.D. Vance will be his running mate, despite the fact that Vance once called him a moral disaster and said that he could be America's Hitler. Damn. If he can say all that and still get picked for vice president, I figure I got a chance at Secretary of State at least. I'm in the mix. Look at this guy. He looks like the politician in a sci-fi movie who's secretly working with the aliens. He looks like a Funko Pop doll of himself. He looks like Teen Wolf graduated and came back to coach the team. I got a bunch of these, but it's a long campaign, so I'm gonna save some.
Tonight, we turn our attention to J.D. Vance, a man who has gone from best-selling author to senator to full-time Elon Musk fanboy with a side hustle and cringe tasks. He's the human equivalent of a LinkedIn motivational post who somehow became a senator by writing a memoir and then immediately betraying everything he ever said in it. A man so forgettable. Even Siri goes, "Did you mean Mike Pence?" Now let's just take a moment to appreciate the irony here. Trump picked J.D. Vance to be his vice president, even though, and I cannot stress this enough, he openly hated him.
She's just telling what happened so we can know it.
Yeah, and it's sort of, it makes you think that at a fundamental level, this is sort of a he said, she said, right? And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
Before J.D. Vance became Trump's biggest fanboy, he was one of the loudest critics. He once called Trump noxious, reprehensible, and warned he was leading the white working class to a very dark place. Now he's his VP pick, proving that in politics, groveling really does pay off. Now here's where the VP pick gets extra weird. Because believe it or not, J.D. Vance is one of the only Republicans openly pumping the brakes on Trump's foreign policy. In a rare plot twist that feels like a deleted scene from a political soap opera, J.D. Vance, yes, the same J.D. Vance currently polishing Trump's campaign boots, recently pushed back again on Trump's foreign policy ideas.
And I'm sure Donald Trump himself is giving it a closer look, is the fact that in those messages, his own vice president attempted to block his military action in Yemen. But the crazies, the nut jobs, the Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, all of them were basically like, yeah, shut up, JD. In fact, as somebody who is also a human being and knows how group texts work, it wouldn't surprise me if a second group text popped up after that just didn't include J.D. Vance.
Now here's where things get awkward, because J.D. Vance didn't just criticize Trump. He straight up said, "I don't believe him," which is like publicly calling someone a scam artist, then accepting a job as their accountant. So what did JD say?
I am not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. In some, there's a strong argument for delaying this a month, doing the messaging work on why this matters, seeing where the economy is, etc. So J.D. Vance openly to the other members of Donald Trump's cabinet was like, listen, this is dumb. This is dumb for many reasons. This is dumb mainly because, hey, this could really screw American consumers badly. He now knows that his own vice president, the man that he handpicked because his last vice president wouldn't go along with his plans to overthrow the election results. This is slightly different, but still defiance. What does that mean for J.D. Vance? What does this mean for the future of the Trump administration? Does this mean that J.D. Vance is done for? Is Trump going to kick him out?
Well. J.D. Vance is doing something we never thought we'd see again. Disagreeing with Donald Trump. Yeah. Apparently even full-time MAGA interns have their limits. J.D. Vance, fresh off being shortlisted as VP, actually pushed back. He warned against jumping into more wars in the Middle East, saying, essentially, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't set the world on fire again. Which is bold coming from a guy who's spent the last 2 years clinging to Trump's political coattails like a baby koala. Will Trump appreciate the feedback? Probably not. But hey, for one brief shining moment, JD remembered how to think for himself. Let's see how long that lasts.
When asked in a new interview how he would handle disagreements with former President Trump, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance said that they would be dealt with in private. Said one man, good luck with that.
When asked how he would handle disagreements with Trump, JD Vance said he'd handle it in private. Oh, in private? That's rich. Like this is a marriage counseling session and not a presidential campaign. Well, doesn't seem like a group chat was your best bet at handling disagreements, now was it JD? Vance doesn't handle things in private. He handles them wherever it's politically convenient. On Twitter, in interviews, probably in post-it notes left in the Capitol bathroom. At this point, JD Vance's principles are like AirPods. They only show up when it benefits him.
During last night's vice presidential debate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance appeared to grow frustrated with CBS News moderator Margaret Brennan and said, quote, "You said you weren't going to fact-check me." Ah, yes, what better way to earn America's trust than blurting out, "I was told we could lie." At the end of the debate last night, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz said that there was, quote, "a lot of commonality here," which, if you speak Midwest, means J.D. Vance is now dead to him. After last night's debate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his wife Gwen went to a pizzeria in New York while J.D. Vance was fed a tube of nutrient paste and returned to his charging dock.
Seems like JD Vance likes to lie as well. During the recent vice presidential debate with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Vance showcased his unique talent for bending the truth with a straight face. JD Vance strutted out on stage with the confidence of a man who just Googled how to win a debate 5 minutes before showtime. At one point, Vance was so committed to pretending he didn't contradict himself that I half expected him to lean in and say, "Actually, I've always supported Trump, even when I said I didn't." That was a loyalty test, and I passed.
In a new interview, Vice President J.D. Vance claimed President Trump has accomplished, quote, "more in 8 days than the entire Biden administration did in 4 years." That can't possibly be true. It's only been 8 days?
8 days. I'm sorry, what was Trump even doing on day 8? Still trying to find the light switches in the White House and tweeting at Meryl Streep? Honestly, if the Trump administration did anything in 8 days, it was redecorate the West Wing with framed tweets and start a trade war via typo. JD talking about those 8 magical days like they were the political version of the Book of Genesis. By day 8, Trump had probably declared 3 national emergencies, 2 of them involving his own ego, and 1 because he ran out of tanning spray. Let's be honest, JD Vance praising Trump's first 8 days is like someone saying their relationship peaked during the first week on Tinder. But sucking up to Trump isn't the only thing Vance is good at, because he also excels at being a world-class liar.
Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Vance is brazen and shameless, but he's admittedly very smooth. He's like a slick used car dealer. It can be very convincing until you remember the car he's trying to sell you is an AMC Gremlin with raccoons in the engine. Still, last night, thanks to CBS's bizarre decision not to fact-check, that slickness was on display as Vance debated Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. For example, Vance claimed at one point that he had never been in favor of a national abortion ban.
At this point, let's just call it what it is. J.D. Vance is a liar. And not just the casual, "my dog ate my homework" kind of liar. No, this man lies like it's his spiritual calling. Like he's not running for vice president. He's auditioning to be the final boss in a game called Misinformation Mayhem. And the worst part? He's actually not too bad at it. He's the kind of guy who would tell you your house is on fire while holding a gas can and somehow convince you it was your cat's fault.
In the past, you have supported a federal ban on abortion after 15 weeks. In fact, you said if someone can't support legislation like that, quote, "you are making the United States the most barbaric pro-abortion regime anywhere in the entire world." My question is, why have you changed your position?
Well, Nora, first of all, I never supported a national ban. I did, when I was running for Senate in 2022, talk about setting some minimum national standard.
That's a ban. A minimum national standard is just a bull way of describing a national abortion ban. Also, Vance is on record saying repeatedly that he favors a national abortion ban. Vance backed a 15-week abortion ban, had a page on his website called End Abortion, and said this on a podcast in 2022.
I certainly would like abortion to be illegal nationally.
That's what happens when you say yes to every right-wing podcast in the universe. J.D. Vance is on record contradicting everything he says.
So J.D. Vance now claims he doesn't support a national abortion ban, which is interesting because the internet exists. And so do his old interviews. And so do our memories. This is the political equivalent of walking out of a Best Buy with a flat screen under your arm and saying, "What TV?" I was just testing the weight. For years, JD Vance has been one of the loudest voices pushing for tighter abortion restrictions, not just in Ohio, but across the country. He was practically lobbying for an official America-wide uterus oversight committee. JD's not evolving. He's just hoping nobody scrolls far enough down his timeline to catch him in 4K. And that's the game. Pretend the extreme thing you championed yesterday never happened, until you're safely in office and can quietly start doing it again.
When Obamacare was crushing under the weight of its own regulatory burden and healthcare costs, Donald Trump could have destroyed the program. Instead, he worked in a bipartisan way to ensure that Americans had access to affordable care. He saved the very program from a Democratic administration that was collapsing and would have collapsed absent his leadership.
That is a staggering lie that is so shameless and so brazen.
Well, this is fascinating because I seem to recall Trump spending 4 straight years trying to light Obamacare on fire with a blowtorch and a pack of Sharpies. That's like saying a cat saved the goldfish by staring at it intensely for 3 hours and knocking over its bowl. Trump didn't save Obamacare, he watched it. He tried to repeal it with more bills than a Vegas blackjack table. The man literally ran on the promise of replacing it with something so much better, and then forgot to bring the plan like the donut he is. At this point, JD Vance isn't even pretending to believe in what he says. He just delivers lines, like he's been reading a menu at a restaurant he's never been to. Confident toned, no idea what any of it means, and willing to send it back the second someone frowns. Honestly, if Seth Meyers were covering JD Vance every night, and he just might, he wouldn't even need writers. JD's whole political career is like a running closer look segment, with a plot twist every 10 minutes. So sure, maybe JD Vance has mastered the political game, but if you have to lie that much to stay in it, maybe the game isn't the problem. Maybe it's the player. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch our video on Pete Buttigieg, leaving Vance raging.